means tumor. So a tumor can be malignant or benign. So the malignant tumor is called cancer, and cancer is the second leading cause of death in United States, only after cardiovascular diseases. So we should do it rapidly, since we have little time. Just in one session we should complete this chapter. So neoplasia is composed of two components: neoplastic cells or tumor cells, and the reactive stroma that is composed of connective tissue, blood vessels, and some immune cells of the adaptive and immune system. So we have benign tumors and malignant tumors. A tumor is said to be benign when its gross and microscopic appearances are considered relatively innocent. So it is localized, it does not spread to other sites, and it is easy to remove it by surgery. In general, benign tumors are ended by the word oma. So generally, benign tumors have the suffix oma, benign. For example, adenoma, chondroma. These are benign tumors. Fibroma. So if you see a term that ends with oma, it is generally a benign tumor, but there are some exceptions, such as lymphoma is a malignant tumor. Melanoma is a malignant tumor of melanocytes. Mesothelioma is a malignant tumor of mesothelial cells. So there are some exceptions. And those cancers that are the cell of origin of those cancers are epithelial cells. If the cell of origin is epithelial cell, the cancer is called carcinoma. But if it is mesenchymal cell, it is called sarcoma. So epithelial cell origin, carcinoma; mesenchymal cell origin, sarcoma. Some examples. For example, adenocarcinoma of stomach. Adenocarcinoma of the stomach is carcinoma. And sarcoma, for example, chondrosarcoma. Chondroma is benign, but chondrosarcoma is malignant, and its cell of origin is mesenchymal cell. So, carcinoma and sarcoma origin from epithelial cell, sarcoma from mesenchymal cell. And when we say adenoma, what does it mean? Adenoma, it means that the cell of origin is epithelial cell, and the cells form glands, glandular structures. So the cell of origin is epithelial cell, but they make glands. So they are glandular. When we say adenoma, it means that it's a benign tumor composed of epithelial cells, and it makes glandular structures. The malignant counterpart of adenoma is called adenocarcinoma. So when you hear the word adeno, it means that it has glands. And also the growth of the tumor is important. You see, this is a polypoid growth. It is the normal mucosa, and here we see a polypoid growth. It's a polyp. So this polyp, now it's a benign tumor, but most commonly it's a benign because it is well defined. But again, we can see malignancies in these polyps. Polyp, it means that there is mucosal projection. So this is a segment of intestine, and you see three polyps here. These should be sectioned and studied under the microscope to see if they are benign or malignant. Cancers, they invade their surrounding tissues. So benign tumors are well defined, but cancers show invasion. They invade and destroy the surrounding structures, and also like to spread to distant areas, which is called metastasis. So malignant tumors or cancers they invade their surrounding tissues and also metastasize. It means invasion to distant areas. And this metastasis is the most important behavior of cancers. So this is the most important factor that separates benign and malignant tumors. So invasion and metastasis. Metastasis needs vessels or lymphatics or body cavities for distant spread. So in metastasis, the tumor needs vessels, blood vessels, lymphatics, and body cavities. They need these vessels and cavities to spread to distant sites for metastasis. Mesenchymal cells, examples include fibrosarcoma. It means that the malignant tumors are originated from fibroblasts, but it is malignant. Chondrosarcoma, leiomyosarcoma. Leiomyoma is a benign tumor of smooth muscle cells, and leiomyosarcoma is a malignant tumor of smooth muscle cells. And can you imagine that what is rhabdomyosarcoma? What is the cell of origin in rhabdomyosarcoma? Can you imagine? Skeletal muscle cell. So a malignant tumor of skeletal muscle cell is called rhabdomyosarcoma. A malignant tumor of smooth muscle cell is called leiomyosarcoma. And malignancies of white blood cells are called leukemias and lymphomas. Leukemias are circulating cells, malignant cells, originating in bone marrow and most commonly circulating malignant cells in blood vessels and lymphatics. But lymphoma means the presence of tissue masses. So circulating malignant blood elements are called leukemias, but tissue masses are called the origin. When the origin is white blood cell, tissue mass is called lymphoma. We have also mixed tumors. You know, in embryology, we have 3 germ cell layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Most commonly, the tumors are composed of only 1 germ layer. But some tumors have all the 3 germ layers. An example is teratoma. Teratoma is a cystic tumor in ovary. You see, this tumor is composed of all 3 germ layers. This is a cyst of ovary, but it contains hair. So This is a benign tumor, benign cystic teratoma. Or dermoid cyst. It's a common tumor in ovary that when you open this cyst, it is very greasy because the lining is skin. I said it has 3 germ layers. So it contains many tissues. The cyst wall is a skin tissue, so it has adnexal structures. So it's very greasy, oily, and it contains hair. So in these tumors, you see different tissues. In ovarian cyst, when we cut the cyst, it is greasy and contains hair, fat, and also it contains cartilage and even tooth. So you can see a tooth, a molar tooth. You know the molars, incisors, different teeth. So you can see a molar tooth in this cyst. And also bone, cartilage. So it is teratoma. Teratoma is a mixed tumor composed of all 3 germ layers. It's common. It's a common tumor. And so this mixed tumor is called teratoma, containing different types of tissues. This table is important to know that which tumor is benign, which is malignant, and what is the cell origin. For example, first I said that tumors can be of mesenchymal origin or of epithelial origin. So tumors can be of epithelial origin or mesenchymal origin or mixed. So of mesenchymal origin, the cells of connective tissue can develop tumors such as fibroma, lipoma, chondroma, and osteoma. These are benign tumors. They end with oma. And their malignant tumors will be fibrosarcoma, liposarcoma, chondrosarcoma, and osteogenic sarcoma. Do you know what is lipoma? What is the cell of origin? Fat cells. The normal tumor is called lipoma, but the malignant liposarcoma. What is the cell of origin in chondroma?
The cartilage.
Cartilage cells. And osteoma, bone cells, osteoblasts. And for blood vessels, the hemangioma is the benign tumor and angiosarcoma the malignant tumor. For lymphatics, lymphangioma, lymphangiosarcoma. Or brain coverings, meningioma is a benign tumor and invasive meningioma malignant. For hematopoietic cells, we have malignant tumors, leukemias. For lymphoid tissue, lymphomas. Leiomyoma means the tumor is composed of smooth muscle cells, and the malignancy is called leiomyosarcoma. Skeletal muscles or striated muscle is rhabdomyoma, the benign, and rhabdomyosarcoma, the malignant tumor. And tumors of epithelial origin, if they are developed from stratified squamous, it's called squamous cell papilloma, and if malignant, squamous cell carcinoma. And basal cells of skin or adnexa cause basal cell carcinoma. And epithelial lining of glands, the benign tumor is adenoma, and the malignant adenocarcinoma. When it has finger-like projections, it is called papilloma. And when it is cystic, it is called cystadenoma. In renal epithelium, renal tubular adenoma, and the malignant renal cell carcinoma. So you should know these names. In bladder, urinary bladder is covered by which type of epithelium? Urinary bladder? Transitional epithelium. And its benign tumor is transitional cell papilloma, and in cancer, carcinoma. Or do you know nevus? What is nevus? What is nevus? Nevus, the melanin pigmented moles that everybody has. All these brownish dots are called nevus. Nevus is benign, and the malignant type is called malignant melanoma. Salivary glands, pleomorphic adenoma, again, is a mixed tumor. It consists of epithelial or mesenchymal cells. And this mixed tumor, mature teratoma or dermoid cyst of ovary, is a tumor that I showed you the picture. Then, characteristics of benign and malignant neoplasm. What is differentiation and anaplasia? Differentiation means how similar is the tumor cell to normal cell. So if a tumor is called well differentiated, it means that it's similar to normal cells. And if a tumor is called poorly differentiated, it means that the cells are not similar to normal cells, and poorly differentiated tumors have a worse prognosis than well differentiated. So it can also show the prognosis of a tumor. Poorly differentiated tumors are more aggressive, and the patient will live shorter. So if a tumor is poorly differentiated, it means that most probably the patient will live shorter than a patient who has well differentiated malignancy. And if there is no differentiation and the cells are very atypical, it is called anaplastic, and the tumor is called, it has anaplasia. It means there is no differentiation. So in this tumor is a leiomyoma, benign tumor of uterus. This tumor is adenoma of thyroid, they are benign. But this is adenocarcinoma. You see variably sized glands lined by atypical cells. It's an adenocarcinoma. Or this is a well differentiated squamous cell carcinoma of skin. What is this? This is an anaplastic tumor, that there is lack of differentiation. You see the cells have large nuclei, atypical nuclei. One of the things that is important in malignant cells is that the size of nuclei are enlarged. So nucleus to cytoplasmic ratio. A normal cell has a small nucleus. The nucleus to cytoplasmic ratio in normal cell is 1/4 to 1/6. But in malignant cells, the size of nucleus is enlarged and it occupies most of the cell. Even it can occupy all the cytoplasm. So in a malignant cell, size of nucleus is enlarged. So the nucleus to cytoplasmic ratio is increased and it can reach 1. So nuclear cytoplasmic ratio is important, that is increased in malignancies. And you see in malignant cells the size of nuclei are enlarged, they are atypical. It means that they are variably sized. It's not ordered, variably sized. They can have different shapes and sizes. So nuclei can have different sizes and shapes. And they are hyperchromatic. Hyperchromatic. It means that they are dark. They are darkly stained. Malignant cells, nuclei are hyperchromatic. You see, they are dark colored. And what is this? Can you imagine what is this central change?
Nucleolus?
What? What? I can't understand. What is the change that you see here? You see something like this here.
A chromosome?
It's a tripolar or a sign called Mercedes sign. You know, Mercedes-Benz is a car and its sign is something like this. It's called Mercedes sign. It's mitosis. Mitosis. but it's an atypical mitosis. So it has three poles. Normally, mitotic figures are like this or this, but this is an atypical mitotic figure that is seen in malignant tumors. So mitosis is increased in number in malignancies, and we see atypical mitotic figures. And there is change in shape and size of cells, which is called pleomorphism. İş fez? Aşağı. So there is pleomorphism in these cells. There is a variable size and shape of tumor cells. And hyperchromatic nuclei, they are densely colored nuclei. And mitosis are increased in number, especially atypical or bizarre mitotic figures. The cells are disordered. They lack their orientation. If there is lack of orientation in malignant cells. So if the cells have disordered pattern in a normal epithelium, they lose this orientation, and their angles, their orientation is disordered. So also the size of nuclei, their variably sized shapes, so they are disordered. They lack polarity. They are disordered. And some tumor cells, you see here, they have very large nuclei. They are giant cells. This is a rhabdomyosarcoma. I said that. What is the cell of origin in rhabdomyosarcoma?
Straight cell, smooth muscle.
Not
Skeletal
smooth,
muscle.
skeletal muscle. So this is a skeletal muscle malignancy, rhabdomyosarcoma, and we see giant cells here. Another change in cancers is ischemic necrosis. Since due to the rapid growth of tumor, so the size of the tumor is big, but there is not enough blood supply. That's why usually in cancers with big size, the central area shows areas of necrosis in cancers. What is metaplasia and dysplasia? Do you remember what is metaplasia? Jia, what is metaplasia? What is the meaning of metaplasia?
When another type of the cell,
Another type of the cells, replacement of the type, another type.
So this cell is typical or atypical in metaplasia? Atypical cells are replaced or typical cells. It means the cells are differentiated or not.
Yes.
They are atypical.
Yes. No, they are the typical.
So metaplasia is one differentiated cell type is replaced by another type of differentiated cell. For example, columnar to squamous. And what is the most common metaplasia in body? Which change?
inside
What type of cell is changed to another type? What is the most common metaplasia?
inside of the
Please answer. Which type of metaplasia is the most common? Cuboidal to columnar, columnar to cuboidal, columnar to squamous, which one? Squamous to columnar. Which type is the most common? Masood? Which type is most common type of metaplasia? And where? Where is the most common type? What? Which tissue? In bronchial epithelium, it's covered by, normally bronchial epithelium is covered by which type of epithelium? Bronchial epithelium, respiratory tract. Bronchial is normally covered by columnar epithelium. Columnar changes to what in metaplasia? Squamous. So the most common type of metaplasia is columnar to squamous in bronchial epithelium, and it's most commonly related with what? What causes this metaplasia? It's the most common type of metaplasia, and what is the cause? Smoking. Smoking causes columnar to squamous metaplasia. In heavy smokers, there is the risk of metaplasia. But it's not malignancy, it's just for adaptation. It is an adaptation that squamous epithelial cells are more resistant to smoking than columnar. So metaplasia is an adaptation. But the other term, dysplasia. Dysplasia is the presence of atypical cells. So dysplasia here is worse than metaplasia. Dysplasia. Dysplasia means presence of undifferentiated or cells that are not similar to normal cells. They are atypical. So there is the risk of turning dysplasia to cancer, but not in metaplasia. Metaplasia is an adaptation, but dysplasia has the risk, it can be precancerous. So dysplasia, there is disordered growth. That ordered type of growth that I showed you is not present in this plastic epithelium. The cells are atypical and disordered. There is disordered growth. So this is the meaning of dysplasia, and there is the risk of malignancy. So this plastic tissue can be precancerous. Here, so this is also the picture. So imagine this is epithelium, and these are the cells that basal cells that line the basal layer, for example, of epidermis. Then the squamous epithelial cells overlie. So here it's ordered, everything is correct. Here at this part, the lower 1/3 of the cells are disordered. They don't show any order. The nuclei are larger, so it's disordered. Just the lower 1/3. It's named mild dysplasia. If 2/3 of the thickness of this epithelium shows atypical and disordered epithelium, so different angles, different orders, loss of polarity, then it will be called moderate dysplasia. But if the full thickness is disordered with large nuclei, atypical cells, then it will be called severe dysplasia or carcinoma in situ. So here it explains that when these plastic changes are marked and involve the full thickness of the epithelium, but the lesion does not penetrate the basement membrane, it means that this basement membrane is intact and we don't see any malignant cell under this basement membrane, then it is considered a pre-invasive neoplasm. It is referred to as carcinoma in situ. So this is the meaning of carcinoma in situ. It's also called severe dysplasia. This is the picture that you see. This picture shows that the full thickness shows dense colored or hyperchromatic nuclei disorder. Cells have different orientations, darkly stained, and this is the higher magnification, and these are mitotic figures because the rate of proliferation is increased in tumors. So all the layer shows atypical cells. This is dysplasia and the meaning of carcinoma in situ. What is one of the behaviors of malignancy? Is local invasion. So they invade the surrounding tissue, destroy the surrounding tissue. That's why a benign tumor is easily removable. So the surgeon can remove a benign tumor because it's well defined. It does not invade the surrounding tissues. But in malignancies, the tissue, it sends finger-like projections to the surrounding tissue. It destroys them, it invades them. So it's not easy to remove cancerous tissue. The surgeon has to remove also the surrounding normal tissue and should do a big surgery. Also, the tumors use vessels, lymphatic vessels, blood vessels, and cavities to spread to distant sites, which is called metastasis. But the most important behavior of malignant tumors is metastasis that differentiates a benign from malignant tumor. So this is the gross picture of a benign tumor. You see it's round, it's well defined. It can easily be removed from the other tissue. This is the fibroadenoma of breast. It's a benign tumor. And also in microscopy you see some glandular structures, which are the ductal epithelial cells that here is the capsule. Benign tumors usually have a capsule. They are surrounded by a capsule. And you see the cells don't invade this capsule. They are small and a benign appearance. But this is a cancer of breast that you see it's not well defined. The cancerous tissue sends some projections to growth of tumor cells to the surrounding tissue. So it's invasive. It's not well defined and it cannot be removed easily. The surgeon has to remove also the surrounding tissue to be sure that there is no other malignant cell here. And this microscopy, but low power microscopic view shows that this tumor sends these finger-like projections to the surrounding normal tissue and it invades. This is the meaning of invasion. So metastasis is the most important, and invasiveness after metastasis is also a reliable feature of
malignancy. Metastasis, so, is defined as a spread of a tumor to sites that are physically discontinuous with the primary tumor, and benign neoplasms do not metastasize. So, if you want to know the difference between benign and malignant tumor, this is the most important difference, that benign tumors do not metastasize to distant sites. The pathways of spread are dissemination of cancers may occur through one of the three pathways: direct seeding of body cavities or surfaces, lymphatic spread, and hematogenous spread. Some tumors like to spread through blood vessels. Some tumors like to spread through lymphatic vessels. And some tumors, for example, ovarian carcinomas, mucinous cystadenocarcinomas of ovary, like to spread to body cavities and cause ascites. This is, for example, a colon carcinoma invading pericolonic fatty tissue. In metastasis, usually we have multiple masses. It shows metastatic cancer to liver, and usually metastasis causes multiple masses. So if you see such a picture, you should first suspect of metastasis. In metastasis, we have multiple masses. For example, can you imagine that what is this tissue? What is this tissue for? Can you imagine?
Pleura?
What?
Pleura?
No. No. You see some spaces here. Can you imagine what is it? Mia, can you say what is that tissue? What is this tissue? You see some spaces, empty spaces. Can you imagine that what is this tissue? It's long, because we have spaces, we have alveolar spaces here. Something like this, they are spaces. These are air spaces and these are alveoli. But here it shows metastatic carcinoma from colon. So a cancer from intestine has invaded, metastasized to lung. This part shows lung alveoli, and this part shows cancerous tissue invading lung. So comparisons between benign and malignant tumors is that there is lack of differentiation in malignant cells. Rate of growth is high, rapid usually in malignant cells. There is mitotic, increased mitosis, and the malignant tumors are invasive, but benign tumors are well demarcated masses. Especially metastasis is absent in benign and frequent in malignancies. There are some occupational cancers that there is a relationship between some agents to some cancers. For example, arsenic and arsenic compounds are related with lung carcinoma, skin carcinoma, or asbestos, which was used frequently decades ago in buildings, is highly associated with carcinoma of lung and with especially mesothelioma, asbestos. Or cadmium and cadmium compounds with prostate carcinoma. So we have occupational cancers. These people work and are exposed to some substances that cause some specific cancers. Age is also related most commonly cancers are seen in old people. Also, we have some cancers that are seen in pediatric groups, but generally, age is important, and cancers are seen in aged persons. So what are the predisposing factors that cause cancer? One of the important things is chronic inflammation and cancer. Prolonged inflammation is directly related with cancer, such as Helicobacter pylori gastritis. If it is present for a long time, it can cause cancer of stomach. And precursor lesions and cancer, such as dysplasia, it can be precancerous. For example, leukoplakia of oral cavity, these are whitish lesions, is a precancerous lesion. So some precancerous lesions, if not treated, they can progress to cancer. And immunodeficiency states and cancer. For example, in AIDS, they have loss of immunity. And so this immunodeficiency state predisposes these people to cancer such as Kaposi sarcoma and lymphoma. There are many things in this chapter, especially genetic basis, molecular basis, that we have little time to explain this. I go to other parts of this chapter. Explain the invasion and metastasis. So for invasion and metastasis, in this picture, you see this is the primary tumor. This is the primary tumor. For metastasis, first there should be loosening of the binding between these cells. So in this picture you see that if these are tumor cells and they are bound together by some adhesion molecules such as cadherins, there should be some loosening of these intercellular junctions. So for invasion and metastasis, first this binding should be loosened. And these are caused by adhesion molecules such as cadherins. And E cadherins, when we say E, it means epithelial cadherins. So E cadherins. These are adhesion molecules between epithelial cells. When we say E, it means epithelial. So these cause binding of cells that generally it is not so hard, firm in tumor cells. But for invasion, there is loosening of these intercellular junctions. So now you see there is loosening. And there are some molecules in tumor cells that start to lyse the collagen fibrils that are present in the extracellular matrix. Extracellular matrix is composed of basement membranes and matrix. In extracellular matrix, especially, we have collagen fibrils.
And after loosening of these junctions, some molecules are released by the tumor cells that lies and break these collagen fibrils. This will cause invasion to the extracellular membrane. So in this picture, you see these are tumor cells. First, there should be loosening of the junction between these tumor cells. Then these tumor cells release some molecules that lies this basement membrane and also the collagen fibrils that are present in this matrix. By lysing, they start moving, they have motion, and they reach the basement membrane of the vessels. They lyse the basement membrane and pass the endothelial cells that line the blood vessels. What? What?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So they enter the blood vessels, and in blood vessels, the tumor cells like to make clusters, and not single cells. That usually they circulate in clusters, in groups. So in circulation, they bind each other and form clusters of tumor cells. So some cells are single, but generally they bind together and form clusters, and they like to bind to other cells as well. So tumor cells in circulation generally circulate in clusters, and they bind other cells such as lymphocytes and platelets. So these are platelets that have bound to tumor cells, and these are lymphocytes. So tumor cells generally circulate in clusters, and they bind other cells that are present in blood, including lymphocytes and platelets. Then at some area, they exit the blood vessels. So here it shows the site of entrance of tumor cells. They form clusters, they bind to other cells in blood vessels, including lymphocytes and platelets. Then they choose an area that they exit and do the reverse processes. They exit past the endothelial cells, basement membrane, and make a metastatic focus, a metastatic tumor at a distant site that is far away from the primary tumor. So this is the processes that happens in metastasis: loosening of the binding between cells, then secretion, releasing of some molecules that lyse the collagen fibrils and cause invasion and entrance of the tumor cells to the blood vessel. And then again, they do the reverse steps. They pass the vessel wall and make a metastatic focus. So, loosening up of tumor cell interactions. So, E-cadherins especially, degradation of the extracellular matrix, attachment to the novel AECM components. You see, these cells, tumor cells, produce some molecules such as type 4 collagenase. One of the types of collagen is type 4 collagen that you remember from repair of tissue, that type 4 collagen is harder, and this tumor cell produces type 4 collagenase that lyses the type 4 collagen and makes smaller and shorter segments of collagen. Also by other molecules such as metalloproteases and plasminogen activator. All these molecules can lyse collagen fibrils. Then by other releasing of other factors such as autocrine motility factor, they bind to some molecules such as fibronectin in extracellular matrix and start moving in this space. So degradation of the basement membrane and interstitial connective tissue is the second step in invasion. The first is loosening of the binding between cells.
And the third step is invasion. In invasion, changes involves changes in attachment of tumor cells to ECM proteins. It has some binding to the matrix cells for moving and invasion. Locomotion is the final step of invasion, propelling tumor cells through the degraded basement membranes and zones of matrix proteolysis. Different cancers have different behavior. The site of metastasis depends on its anatomic location, the vascular drainage of the primary tumor, and the tropism of particular tumors for specific tissues. What is tropism? Means some tumors like some cells, some tissues for metastasis. Why? What does it mean? It means that there are some receptors and ligands. There are some molecules that can bind together only at some tissues. For example, prostatic carcinoma preferentially spreads to bone. Why? Because prostatic cancer cells have some molecules that bind to receptors present only in bone. So this is called tropism. Or bronchogenic carcinomas tend to involve the adrenals. Lung cancers like to involve adrenal glands that overlie the kidneys. Again, due to presence of some molecules that bind together, that it is absent in other tissues. So this is called tropism, and also the anatomic location of the tumor is important. But two organs that are most commonly metastasized are lung and liver. So in different cancers, lung and liver are commonly metastasized. Before this immunity, I explain also staging and grading of tumor cells. That immunity is a little more difficult to, which will be the last part of this. It's a big chapter that it needs 4 or 5 times, so I explain only some of the important parts of this chapter to you. What is grading and staging of tumors? I told you that what is differentiation? What is the meaning of differentiation? Anybody remembers? What is the meaning of differentiation?
The same cell
What?
to changing to the same cell or
Differentiation means how similar is a tumor cell to the normal cell. So when a tumor is called well differentiated, it has a better prognosis. The cells are similar to normal cells. When we say a tumor is poorly differentiated, it means that the cells are atypical and it has a worse prognosis. So this is grading. Grading is to explain the differentiation of a cancer. So in a pathologic report, we should mention that what is the grading of the tumor.
It's how the cell division.
So the differentiation, when we say a tumor is well differentiated, it means that the cells are, most of the cells are similar to the normal cells. So it has a better prognosis. So it will be important for the surgeon, for the doctor that is treating the patient to know that what is the grading of the tumor. Grading is explained by level of differentiation. So well differentiated tumors have better prognosis, and poorly differentiated cancers have worse prognosis. So
This is the grading system. And what is staging? Staging is also important for the surgeon that wants to treat the cancer patient. There are some classifications, but the best classification system in United States, developed in United States, is the TNM classification. So, as I told you, what is carcinoma in situ? Do you remember?
Carcinoma is the epithelium.
So, carcinoma in situ is also called what type of dysplasia? Severe. And in carcinoma in situ, the malignant cells are not invasive. They don't penetrate the basement membrane. So, T is the size of the tumor. T is tumor. If we say T0, it means it is carcinoma in situ. But then we use some numbers such as 1, 2, 3 to show that the size of the tumor is increased. So T is the size of the tumor, T0 is carcinoma in situ, and after 0 is invasive. N is the lymph node. So T and N is lymph node. If a lymph node is involved by a tumor, it has a worse prognosis than free lymph nodes. So if we say N0, it means that no lymph node, no regional lymph node, the lymph nodes that are near to the cancerous tissue. If it is N0, it means that no regional lymph node is involved, and again the patient has a better prognosis. But if it is written 1, 2, 3, it means that some lymph nodes are involved, regional lymph nodes, and this patient has worse prognosis. What is M is metastasis. So when we write M0, it means that there is no metastasis. So a patient with no metastasis will live longer than a cancerous patient with metastasis. So if we say M1, 2, or 3, it means that the patient will have some foci of metastasis. So this is the staging. Staging with the TNM type of classification, explaining its size, the involvement of lymph node, and presence or absence of metastasis. This is the meaning of staging and grading. Now we can listen to your some presentations, and then, because the last part, immunology, I think that now you're tired after some presentations, we can continue the tumor immunity. You want to start?